Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Raw Reaction series after Arsenal have beaten Leicester City 2-0 away from home in what was described as the test, the game in which we would find out much more about this Arsenal side, whether or not they could overcome a very good Leicester City side that have themselves turned their form around with wins against Manchester United and away from home against Brentford too. Very, very interesting. Plenty of individual performances to break down. Plenty of praise to give the way of manager Mikel Arteta, as well as he is proving more doubters wrong. Are you back on the Arteta train yet? Is it going to take a few more results for you to really consider your position on the manager if it has not changed already? We're going to be with you for the next 30 minutes or so. Of course, you join us at halftime in El Trashico between Manchester United and Tottenham Hotspur. The current score is 1-0 to United. If it stays that way, I'll be very happy. Seeing Spurs lose is always a good thing. But the less about that, the better, because if you're watching this on playback or a little bit later this evening, of course, that game has indeed finished. So you'll know the result more than I will at this present state of play. But I hope you're doing good. I hope you're well. I hope you can drop a like on today's video and subscribe to the Gooner Talk if you haven't done so already. We also did a further breakdown over on the Arsenal way, so do check out the link in the description to the channel, and you can watch back Mikel Arteta's press conference on the Arsenal way as well, so make sure you are over there. And getting, yes, Alex, we can call it El Sacico. I like to call it El Trashico, to be honest. I think that's a much more appropriate way to describe United and Spurs at this current state of play. Let's see who we've got in the chat box this evening. Our Raw Reaction shows after the games are typically used to get your thoughts, your feelings, your comments, and your discussion points going. So do throw them into the chat and we'll get your thoughts heard. Let's go to Dave, who says, completely buzzing, Tom. What a result that was. Omar says, eating all the humble pie I can about Ramsdale. What a performance he provided. I mean, let's start with Ramsdale. I don't think it'd be fair to start anywhere else. Wow, just quite plainly wow. The humble pie is very much what people are eating indeed, Omar. If there are still people out there that are refusing to admit that they were wrong about Aaron Ramsdale, I don't think they ever will, to be honest. I don't think there's anything that he could do. Maybe winning the Ballon d'Or as a goalkeeper may not even convince them then that he is in fact quite a good goalkeeper. It's fair to say he has been absolutely brilliant so far. He's doing better than Ederson this season. Just 4 goals conceded, 5 clean sheets in his displays so far this season has been, just to be honest, brilliant for Arsenal. The saves today, the distribution. I think it was actually ironically, his worst distribution of his time at Arsenal. I think he actually ended up with a passing accuracy that wasn't that great, but he hit quite a few long clearances to deal with the Leicester pressure. But some of the passes still were insane. The drop kick that went straight to Aubameyang in the middle of the park, the pass out to the right-hand side that was just unbelievable. The calmness that he has on the ball when he's in possession of it was just ridiculous. I, for one, I'm just so pleased. There is obviously a little bit of an arrogance to this, because writing the piece that I wrote, the amount of stick that I got writing the piece about Ramsdale's distribution was just ridiculous. And I'm so glad that that's obviously going certainly my way. But I'm so pleased from an Arsenal point of view that we've seen that the club is working towards improving their recruitment, really identifying the players that we want to see brought into the team and the players that are going to have a significant impact on the side's fortunes. And we needed to bring in a keeper to back up Bernd Leno, and we thought that's what we were getting. And we thought that £24 million on a player like Ramsdale, and I say on a player like Ramsdale in quotation marks, in the sense that you're getting someone there that's not really been tested at the top level for an elite side, has been playing at sides that he's been peppered with shots at. He's been relegated 3 times with clubs. We did a brilliant survival push with Wimbledon, but hasn't been able to really, showcase what he's about in a really solid team where he can focus more on his build-up play from the back, which is something that I don't think many people identified. But the club clearly knew what they were doing and knew what they were doing when they signed him for £24 million. And credit to Mikel Arteta, because he's the main one that really did push to get the club to pay the money to get Ramsdale in this season, and because he has been absolutely worth it. So credit to Arteta and more credit to Ramsdale for being an absolute goat, as he has been, or a ram, as Zana says. It's truly quality player and loving the guy. Steve Stone says Ramsdale deserves a number 6 shirt at the moment. I mean, if he stays on that many clean sheets, that's what he'll be on in the next game. If he keeps a clean sheet against Watford, he'll certainly be getting the number 6 shirt for clean sheets. That is for sure. What a back five, though, says Ans, like they've played together for years. Loving Tavares. I mean, again, I was so impressed with Tavares' play out from the back. I think there was only one time that he got the ball away or the ball taken away from him and he was kind of caught, but he was so good. And we talked about how this time he would be tested. He wasn't tested against Ricardo Pereira. He was tested against Timothy Castagna instead. And of course, Iheanacho on that side and Tielemans on that side too. But his technical dribbling, the way in which he took players on and relieved pressure upon the defence was so good. And we just haven't missed Kieran Tierney during the time that he's not been out. In those 2 games against Villa and now against Leicester, Tavares has been up there as one of our best players on the team. I mean, it's been pretty tricky to be up there with our best players because everyone's been playing so fantastically well. But Tavares was just so good. King says, I don't know how Benfica said Tavares was not good. He's oh my days. I mean, I heard from people. I did a tactical breakdown with my pal, Jose Miguel, who of course is a big Sporting fan rather than a Benfica fan. And he said that he was surprised that Tavares earned this move. And I'm not saying that these people were wrong at the time. Players can, they play very differently when depending on the setting that they're in. And he may not have proven kind of too much during that time at Benfica that he was worthy of a move to Arsenal. But clearly the analysis and the scouting that's been done on Tavares is enough to convince the Arsenal team to spend less than £10 million. In fact, it's the exact amount. I think it's just under the amount of money that we've earned from doing the Amazon documentary to bring in Nuno Tavares. So I am over the moon with what he's doing. The way in which we've done our business this summer is only a credit to Arteta and Edu and all those behind the scenes, Richard Garlick as well, because Tomiyasu, Ben White, again, a really solid performance from him. Ødegaard came on and had an impact as well. I thought his passing to Saka in the box was really good. And I don't think many people picked up upon how good Ødegaard's passing forwards and into the box of Bukayo Saka was. Probably something that I'll highlight when we do our analysis on the Arsenal way of the game for our Analysing Arsenal show. But that's something that I think will go under the radar. So if you don't see people giving Ødegaard the credit he deserves for creating some of the chances in the last kind of final half an hour of the game, make sure you do tune into that because it was something that definitely needs highlighting. And he's not starting, and yet he's coming off the bench and making a difference. Lokonga and Partey. Let's focus on Lokonga and Partey as a central midfield. Give me your thoughts in the chat box about this central midfield pairing. And again, we have to come up and talk about Mikel Arteta's faith that he's put once again in Lokonga, because Lokonga was not good against Brighton. Partey was even worse against Brighton. He could have dropped Lokonga. He said, I've got Ainsley Maitland-Niles. I've got Mohamed El Neni. I can go and put a more experienced, a more weathered, a more well-played midfielder that's got more Premier League experience than you, because you kind of dropped the ball on that offensive side of the game in that game against Brighton. He wasn't awful, but he wasn't good. And he didn't do that. He didn't do that whatsoever. He said, no, I'm going to double down. I'm going to put you in against Palace. And again, even against Palace, he wasn't like amazing in that fixture. No one was amazing in that fixture against Palace, but he continued to show that faith in him. And in those games against Brighton and against Crystal Palace, we missed Granit Xhaka. Massively missed Granit Xhaka because the passing just wasn't quite clicking for Lokonga. But I said time and time again on our preview shows, keep the faith in Lokonga, play him in these games, give him the opportunity to fill that void, and hopefully he will show what he's capable of. And he did show what he's capable of against both Villa and now against Leicester City, that his calmness on the ball, his passing, his disciplined positioning, he prefers to play in the number 8 role. But he is proving that he can play in this slightly deeper central midfield position alongside Thomas Partey, and those two are definitely forming a partnership that could go on to play for the long term. I mean, at least for the short term, whilst Granit Xhaka is out, those two are going to be used together. And when Granit Xhaka returns in January, we've then got that depth that's there as well. And either Lokonga or Partey can play next to Xhaka if one of them is injured or one of them is not fit or needs a rest. But at the moment, you're not thinking about putting Granit Xhaka back in whatsoever. You're thinking about playing Lokonga and Partey together for as long as feasibly possible so that they can build up that relationship, that partnership, that duo, that just the dynamism between the two, the dynamic they've got going on is great. And I love the way they bring the ball out from the back. And I really kind of strangely like that they're willing to take a pop at goal. It was getting frustrating against Brighton and Crystal Palace, but I think they've kind of reined it in a little bit. They've understood the context and timing of when they take their shots. And when they do, it's not come off too badly. I mean, Lokonga took a shot that won us a corner that led to a really dangerous piece of play. Partey took a shot which, to be fair, tested Schmeichel and nearly led to a rebound for Aubameyang to hit in. If they're going to get them on target and they're shooting in the right place, I don't mind them taking those shots, but it is about the context of when they're taking them, and that certainly did improve in those last two games. And Partey, of course, got his goal against Villa, so there you go. Rancid says, Sambi and Partey are quality midfield pair with a lot of potential and will get better. Dave says, Lokonga is growing. Just a kid, like all of the signings are, only going to get better with age, like a fine wine. Like Matthew Flamini, as he once described himself. Vinny says, fans need to stop saying that we don't need this player because this player played well. We need depth, which is key over the course of a season. Absolutely. For those people turning around and saying we're proving that we don't need Xhaka, that's a load of bollocks. Excuse my French, but it's a load of bollocks to say that we don't need Granit Xhaka, because we did need Granit Xhaka in those games against Palace and against Brighton. And if one of Lokonga or Partey now gets injured or gets suspended, we'll be wishing that we had Granit Xhaka back to cover them. We need everybody available. We need Nuno Tavares when he's come in to replace Kieran Tierney. We've clearly still needed Alexandre Lacazette to come in, despite buying Martin Odegaard, despite promoting Balogun to the first team. We've still needed these players. Stop looking at football in such a binary fashion. You need your squad, you need all your players available, and you need to get the best from them when they are. And Arteta is now getting the best from those players. Still needs to be done consistently. Still need to go into that Watford game, not being too arrogant. We don't need to fall into the Arsenal trap like we've done in previous years and thought, oh, this is going to be a walkover. We've got the win behind us. We are going to sail through these games, and then we drop one against these sides like Watford. We don't want to do that. We've got a whole week to prepare. No European football. We've got a week to get back to it and prepare for this game against Watford and go into that and push towards our targets. And then we could go into the Liverpool game with 10 games unbeaten. They've played a difficult game against Brighton in which they came unstuck defensively. Brighton earned their 2-2 draw. We're very fortunate, to be fair, with the Mane thing that could have made it 3-0, and that would have probably ended the game. But Brighton have showed that Liverpool can be got at. They can show that you can go to Anfield and get a result this season. And Arsenal need to go into that game against Liverpool after the international break, hopefully with as many players available to them as possible and with the momentum that they would have built up. I don't think we'll want the international break to come after Watford. It's going to come at a really awful time for us. But that is what we need to focus on for sure. So it's a really good point, Vinny, that you bring up there. Omar says, Arteta, carry on this way, and I will have to back him again. Been getting it right lately, so fair play to him. Albert joining us. Do go check out Albert JTV. Come on, you Gooners. Yes, that bear hug is coming soon. So I'm cracking 3 points today. It is games like today that we need to win to get into Europe. Hit the likes. People, Fun Trick says, do you think we will have money to spend in January, considering the last 2 seasons Arteta did not spend money in January? I don't think it's anything to do with previous windows and how he approaches them. I think the January window is very much used as an opportunistic period to cover certain areas when they're needed covering. So if you think back to when we signed Aubameyang, we lost Alexis Sanchez, we had to act. We brought in Aubameyang. If you think back to last season, we had to act to bring in a backup keeper. We brought in Matt Ryan. We had no depth at the number 10 position. We brought in Martin Odegaard in on loan. And both of those signings had a big impact on the second half of the campaign. And they were necessary kind of signings in those positions too. So I'm happy with how we're approaching the January window. I still think it will be very much used as an opportunity to move on players like Kolasinac, like Eddie Nketiah. Get following Balogun alone would probably be a really good move for us. Move on players possibly like Cedric. I'm going to try not to stop looking at the TV throughout this because I know the game's gone into the second half and I know that those that are watching on catch up will not care. So actually, you know what? We're going to turn it off and I'm going to get a good surprise when I see that Spurs are still losing, hopefully. Come on, turn off. There we go. Thank you. Let's go down to Julian, who says, evening, Tom. Great result today, but worrying pattern of our play. Score early and sit back. We're not always going to get carried away with it. I don't think we sat back after the first goal. I still think we applied pressure. It was quite similar to the game against Villa. We scored the first goal and we carried on trying to push and try to get that next goal, and we did that. And we got that next goal. Now, what's important, Julian, is to remember that you can't play full tilt, full time for the entire game. It's just not sustainable. It's not sustainable to pile on the pressure like we did in those first 20 minutes for the whole of the game. And you're going to have periods during fixtures where the opposition do build into the game, where they grow into it, where they have periods of dominance. And during those periods, that's the measure of a really solid, organised, well-disciplined team in comparison to one that falls away. In comparison to a team like Arsenal when we were against Crystal Palace, we did fall away. We got that early goal. We sat back when we shouldn't have done. We should have applied more pressure like we've done in the last two games. We didn't. Palace grew into the game much more, and we didn't manage their opportunities, and we made two key individual mistakes in Lokonga and Partey, and we enabled them to score. In this game, it was different. Leicester, as they are a very, very good side, built their way back into the game. They made two very solid offensive changes at halftime by bringing on Lookman and Harvey Barnes, and eventually bringing on Patson Daka as well. And Arteta's side is clearly now very well drilled to deal with those situations. If you look back to the Brighton game, we didn't play particularly well in an offensive sense, but defensively, we were very, very good. And so that certainly is a positive. Stop putting score updates in the chat box. I don't care. I don't care about the game while I'm doing this show. Vinny, stop it. I know you're lying. Matt Thornton says, ESR stepping up his levels. England call up shortly. I mean, there is no reason why Emile Smith-Rowe should not be getting into that team. Jesse Lingard was in the last England call-up. If he is getting in this squad, Emile Smith-Rowe deserves to be called up for this November team. Speaking of which, Aaron Ramsdale deserves his first England cap. For me, it's a no-brainer between those, and that is what should be taking place. By the way, if you're enjoying the show, please do drop a like on the video and subscribe to the Gooner Talk if you have not done so already. Show your support, show your love. If you enjoyed today's game, if you had a fantastic day because Arsenal won at 12:30, which we never do, please do drop a like on today's video. Jack Webb says, what do you think of the embarrassing AFTV chance again today? Again, I'm always happy to discuss this thing. Look, I think if you're going all the way to Leicester, if you're traveling all the way up to Leicester and you want to spend your time chanting about a fan channel, I would probably suggest having second thoughts about how you want to use your energy. Look, there's nothing offensive about the get AFTV out of our club chant. Look, it is what it is. It's a silly grow-up chant. However, the chant that gets personally directed at Robbie is frankly disgusting, and it's more embarrassing than like so much of what the channel does for people. If people are embarrassed by AFTV and are not embarrassed by people calling Robbie what they have called him in a chant, I'm sorry, but your logic and your ethics and your morals are so off scale, it's ridiculous. So my thoughts are that, Jack, and I think people need to grow up. So there you go. Bill says, congratulations on the new show of Harry. I mean, thanks for the congratulations. But yeah, no, it's great. I think me and Harry are going to do a good show together every week. The next one will be on his channel, so make sure if you haven't already, go subscribe to the Chronicles of a Gooner. Akshat says, 2 weeks in a row now where we win early in the weekend and can chill and enjoy the rest of the results. Speaking of the rest of the results, I can't comment on the game that's going on right now, but Liverpool dropping points, Manchester United dropping points is big, big, big stuff for us. Really stuff. Brighton dropping points as well. You might argue that turns out to be good. Brentford as well, dropping points quite surprisingly against Burnley. It's showing that there is no easy games this season, that anyone can drop points. And if you are able to go on an unbeaten run, if you're able to go on a period of games where you're picking up some really good points, and I tell you what, something that we discussed, and I dropped a few points in, and definitely in our WhatsApp group, for the TGT WhatsApp group with John, I think it was pointed it out, that point against Crystal Palace that we got is looking increasingly very, very good. So for all of the criticism that those Arsenal fans that took the time to go to that game celebrated Alexandre Lacazette's 90 whatever minute equaliser, I mean, that is looking very, very good for us right now. So there you go. Arsenal Granny says, have you noticed how quiet Ozil has been? Yes, trust the process. Is that heart getting put back together? Maybe it is. So there you go. Let's go. Yep, stop spamming my chat, please. Thank you. I appreciate that you're joining me, but there's lots of people trying to get their comments in. Tom says, I was 2 gin and waters in by kickoff at 7:30. I'm in Tampa, and we had a bunch of Arsenal supporters jumping around like fools before it was completely lights out. Tom, I mean, I don't blame you, mate. It's unbelievable that you guys are still so committed to getting up at the early hours in the West when we have these silly fixtures, and in the East when we have those evening games as well. And so I think it was probably worth it. Gin and water, though, what are you drinking, mate? That's strange, very strange. Steve says, we got pelters for drawing against Palace and Brighton, not looking so bad now. I mean, they're looking like 2 very decent points. We're looking like that I mean, that place that we went to in Brentford is also proven to be a very difficult ground to get points into. So I think that when we look contextually at the start of this season, we lost to Chelsea, we lost to City without our starting centre-backs. I think that we're starting to piece together a lot of the context of the season so far. And that for me is certainly a big positive for us. Keto, Tom. I mean, you need to just the slimline tonic, mate. Slimline tonic. That's all you need. Maximus says, hey, Tom, I hope we do have a plan B as well. Sometime down the line, there will be teams who find a way to negate our initial burst. We have to have an alternative formation and plan ready. It's a really good point. And yes, we do. There are going to be games. And maybe it'll come against Watford. Maybe against Watford, we go into half-time, 0-0. For the first time in quite a while, we will go into halftime maybe without the lead, and we'll have to see about how we grind out a victory. But what we said is when we were doing that previously and we were failing to score, is that one of the big things that we needed to focus on was getting an early goal. And Arsenal have started to do that of late, and it's proving very, very crucial to what we've needed to do. PAPP, thanks for bringing up this. I wanted to get your thoughts because I've just seen Aymeric Laporte get sent off for pretty much the exact same thing that Johnny Evans did to Aubameyang. Now, the excuse, and I say excuse because I do feel like Peter Walton sometimes gives excuses for his colleagues and the referees. But for me, I can't work out how he feels that the ball going beyond Aubameyang is nowhere near a distance that he feels that Aubameyang wouldn't be able to catch up with that. For me, that is a clear. If Aubameyang gets away from Evans there, he is clear through on goal without a shadow of a doubt, and it is a clear goal-scoring opportunity. Aymeric Laporte gets sent off, I can't remember who it was he bring down. I thought it may have been Wilfried Zaha. And he gets sent off because it's denying so far from goal. You can't have these inconsistencies. That's what's so frustrating as an Arsenal fan, is seeing these inconsistencies. And we see it all the time. And we've won the game, so it doesn't matter. But if Leicester had come back in that game and say we'd drop points, again, we'd look to a silly referee mistake that's cost us. For me, it's a red card. Because if you're going to give the red card to Laporte, you have to give the red card to Johnny Evans in that situation. There is no consistency still. Even with the help of VAR, we can't seem to find consistency, and it's not good enough. Not good enough whatsoever. Vinny says, ridiculous decision. Aubameyang was through 1v1, dead centre with the goal. The ball dropped about 10 yards behind him, much closer to Aubameyang than the goalkeeper. Pathetic reffing. Red all day long, says Zander. Definitely a red, says Tom. Mikey says, Arsenal get judged by a different standard. It does sometimes feel that way. Omar says, last man, it was a red. Tom says, what's our record with you in that third kit? It seems good. I probably should just wear this for every game now. It's going to have to become a thing, isn't it? But what's good to know is I've been to Arsenal's last 2 games against Villa and Leeds. We won both. So it's good to know that when I don't go, we're also still winning. So the superstitions, they're balancing each other out. But I feel like if I'm not at the game, I've got to wear this shirt. So I think that's probably the trade-off that we're going to have. says, will you take Martinez if Laka leaves? Do you think that he can play in the same role Laka has? Martinez is, I believe you're talking about Lautaro Martinez. He has just signed a new deal with Inter Milan. He's not going anywhere. Nowhere at all. Let's go to Alex. Who says, if that was Xhaka, it's a red. Absolutely. If that's David Luiz last season, it would be a red. I would have no doubt in my mind that they would have given a red for that one. Is the League Cup in our sights? Yes, that's a good bit of news that we've not talked about today. Arsenal drew Sunderland at home in the quarterfinals of the League Cup. I don't know if you've heard the comments from the Sunderland manager on Arsenal. Let me just see if I can find them quickly. The Express going with the headline, Arsenal savaged by Sunderland. Boss Lee Johnson. He said, let me find the quote. Where's the quote? I'd love to have Arsenal away or Tottenham away, if not that. And then we'll wait for the really big guns when it's two legs. Now, if Arteta is looking at that, and I think he should go strong, it's a quarterfinal of a competition. You've got a really good chance to get to the semis. I hope he goes into that game and absolutely batters Sunderland, like desperately wanting to go into that game and batter them. Fingers crossed that they do. And it's just not polite, is it? It's just not polite whatsoever. Yeah, thanks, Jimmy Bullard, for that. Appreciate you pulling out Sunderland for us there. Really good draw. And annoying that Chelsea and Liverpool didn't get each other. And I have a lot of faith in West Ham, hopefully going to get a result at Spurs. Brentford could be a really difficult game for Chelsea, and Leicester, as we know, are a very decent side. And with the way that they're targeting cup competitions, maybe a changed Liverpool side will be enough for them to beat. We will see. We will find out. Sahil, yes, last thing that I wanted to bring up is the shout out to the set piece coach. We have been impressive with the corners, and that's a big asset to have. Jova is the guy that we brought in from Manchester City. Kai Kainak, my colleague at Football London, did a really good piece on him. So if you haven't checked that out already, please make sure you do. But it's clearly working. In our last three games, Villa, Leeds, and now Leicester, we've scored from a set piece. I think something like 4 of our last 8 or 9 goals have come from set pieces. We are improving a lot. I was so sick of us just hitting the first man from a corner. It's so great. I mean, we still did it. Smith Rowe still managed to hit one from one of the corners today. I was so sick of it. And thank God we're now finally getting over that. It's great to see. Arsenal Misfit says, sorry, but if it was not for Ramsdale, we don't get 3 points and we're going back to roasting Arteta and the players. Oh, you know what? Just bore off. I'm so sick of people with these agendas, man. I've been sitting saying that I think a change of coach would be for the benefit of the club since Villarreal. I've said that I wanted to see consistency until I get back on the Arteta train, if you want to call it that. But I will not have people jumping in here and trying to belittle a performance like that we saw today. We have improved so much defensively, so much with our goalkeeper. And you say if it was not for Ramsdale, if it weren't for Mikel Arteta, we wouldn't have bloody Ramsdale at the club. If he didn't push to go and sign Ramsdale, he wouldn't be here to save us those points. So if you want to credit a goalkeeper for keeping our points, you credit the manager that went out and made sure that we signed him. It's as simple as that. And with that, we're going to wrap things up. Please drop a like if you've enjoyed today's video. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And make sure that you tell those Arteta outers that are still holding an agenda. And I, for one, still think I want to see consistency. But if you're seeing anyone being negative, you know where to tell them to go. I hope you have a fantastic evening. Enjoy your stress-free weekend. And we'll see you tomorrow for the 8 a.m. show. Have a fantastic time. And as always, up the Arsenal.